Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes of all teen ages. This is quite possibly the most ghetto review I've ever done, but you know what? If this reviewing style is good enough for Ashens, it's good enough for us. Today we're going to be talking about a game that I got recently called Krosmaster Arena. Now, what exactly is Krosmaster Arena? Well, if you happen to have played a game called Dofus, or the more recent one known as Wakfu, then this style should look pretty familiar to you. Here's a quick look at the game box. As you can see, it's very colorful, looks very childish. Oddly enough though, even though this game looks very childish, it's actually recommended for 14 and older. I believe this mainly has to do with the fact that the show is also rated 14 and older, and as you can see here, some of the characters are like blood mages, have a bit of blood things going on, and some of the characters are kind of half-dressed, although you can't really tell on the figures. Overall, I would say that this game is very, very suitable for children 8 and up, as opposed to 14 and up. As long as, if you're really too bothered about it, you can take out some of the blood characters, some of the more scantily dressed characters, if it really bothers you that much. The gameplay is very simple, very easy for a kid to get into, and so far it's a lot of fun. The game sports about 2 to 4 players. It's a pretty fun game so far. It's very easy for kids to get into, and I really like it so far. So let's take a quick look at the pieces. Here's a basic idea of what the pieces look like. As you can see, they are very, very adorable, very chibi style. They have huge heads, little bodies, and that is the kind of thing we love. Exactly what you'd expect from a company known as Japanime Games. The figures are very well put together, very well painted. If I had any complaints at all, it would be that some of the characters have a few seams, as you can see here. But really, that's not that big of a deal at all. They really could have crapped out completely on making these and not done the faces very well or something like that, but as you can see, the pieces are all done really well. There's about 90 pieces to collect right now, and so far all of them look really good. I'm actually working really hard to collect the entire collection just because I love the way the figures look so much. Even if this game falls off and people stop playing it, I'll probably collect all the figures anyway, just because these would be kind of a cool thing to have on the mantelpiece, really cool talking point if you have people coming over, keep them out on a table somewhere. So far, it's really well done. I really enjoy the way the figures look, and I will probably collect them for quite a while. As far as piece variety goes, these are the 8 characters that come in the standard box, which is probably what you'll be getting if you happen to get into this game. I wouldn't recommend starting anywhere else, because the starting box also has the maps you'll be playing on and all of the pieces you'll be needing. So I would recommend going there. These are the 8 characters you will get. They're all pretty well balanced. There are a couple of complaints about the Queen of Tofus and the King of Go-Balls here, as my friends were having a bit of trouble with some of the summoning characters and how to deal with them, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. There are, as I said before, a lot of other figures you can collect. Here are just some example characters. There are knights. This is actually one of the elemental knights. This is the knight of water, and then there are knights of other elements. I do have all of the knights. There are some bigger characters, some characters you might recognize from the show. This is Goldhard. If you happen to have watched the anime, then this is him. And it's kind of cool playing with some of the anime characters. There's also really creative figures like this one. I believe he's also from the anime, but I haven't seen enough of it to really recognize him. I just really love all of these characters. I think just having something like this on your mantelpiece, if somebody comes over, you'd point it out to them, and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, where'd you get that?" And it's like, "Oh, it's a game piece for this game called Krosmaster. Maybe we should play later." And it's just a really cool thing to have. For this review, though, I'm going to try to keep it to the 8 base characters because they're the ones you're going to want to familiarize yourself with the most. Not only do you get characters, but you get these neat little cards too. I absolutely love the artwork on the cards. This is Anatomy, for example. Anatomy, you get it. A lot of characters have names like that. Like I got a character over here named Gems Blonde. Brilliant. Anyways, the artwork on the cards themselves are really well done. The stats side are also really easy to follow, really easy to understand. Let's take a quick look at Build Tell here. The movement is right here in this green, the health is right here in this pink, and the action points are right here in this blue. And that makes it really easy for just about anybody to pick up and learn, because it's not one of those things where they have to read down a stat line and it's like, oh, well, where was my movement again? I don't remember where it was. It's right here. Movement, health, action points. Very easy. I haven't had any problems with anybody learning how to play and forgetting any of their stats. They also have abilities here, and it even has the same symbol for action points as it does up here. That way you can very easily tell that this requires this to use. Simple, right? It's very easy for kids to get into this, and it's really fun and strategic. I think anybody of just about any age can get into this. You'll notice that I have them in these top loaders. The game itself doesn't come with these top loaders, obviously they're mine. I put them in here because, in my personal opinion, I don't really like the cards. The cards are very flimsy. They're not very high quality at all. The ink on them is pretty nice. Like, it's not something that'll rub off, but the cards themselves can bend, and that is no me gusta, especially if you're somebody who's wanting to collect. So I put them in a plastic sheet, just like this. These are very cheap, very easy to get, and I would recommend doing them because if you don't, I can't guarantee that these cards are going to last more than, I'd say, 5 years. I'd give them 5 years before they start degrading in the box. The figures themselves, though, like I said before, are very good quality, and I would expect the figures to be staying around for about, let's go with about 9 to 12 years if they're kept in really good condition. This is the base board that you'll normally be playing with. This is the one that comes in the starter set. It is also double-sided. I will show you the other side in just a moment. First, I'd like to take a look at the extra pieces. You get these things here called demonic rewards. These are special things that you can use to enhance your character throughout the course of the game. There are 3 different prices, the 3, the 6, and the 12. And the more expensive the item, normally the more powerful it is. You can also kind of cheese out and just buy a bunch of the 3 rewards instead of buying one of the 12s, but I digress. The board itself, as you'll notice, have these little golden coins, and these are known as kama. As I said before, if you've played any of the MMOs, then you should recognize the kama and pretty much everything else. The pieces themselves are really cool because once you set them up one time, you never have to set them up again. In fact, trying to take this apart is a nightmare. As soon as you have these set up, you never have to build them again ever. And one of the cool things is each of the trees has something a little unique about them. Like, as you can see here, there's some eyes looking through at you there. The bushes are kind of the same. Some of them have little animals on them, and it is very adorable, very cute. If the game didn't have any of the bloody characters or any of the characters that look like they might be half-dressed, then I think this game would appeal to anybody as young as maybe even 6, as long as you kept them from eating the pieces, I guess. They also come with these hit tokens, which show like how many wounds your character have taken, and once a character receives as many wounds as it has HP, it's dead, obviously. But I don't really like using these. I think these are a little cumbersome. I don't really like having a bunch of little bits on my pieces or my cards. So my friends and I actually developed just using red dice to recommend the wounds, and I would recommend picking up dice and using those for your wounds instead. I just kind of keep these bagged up and as part of my collection. I don't actually use them in actual gameplay. I have to say these boxes are some of the worst things I've ever gotten in a game board ever. They're really cool on the board because like you set them up and they look really neat and your characters can stand on them, but putting them together is such a hassle. They don't actually stay together. I actually had to, if you can see in there, I had to kind of jury rig this with tape. The directions are really easy, really simple to follow, but the pieces themselves are actually not very good, which confuses me because I bought the expansion pack Frigost, and the Frigost pack also comes with these kinds of things, and the boxes in the Frigost pack actually stay together perfectly. I've never had to rebuild them ever. They just fit together like a dream. So I don't really know what's going on there. These aren't very good. Everything else is very good. If you can tape these or glue these, then that's what I recommend doing. We'll also look at the special dice that comes in the game. These are absolutely critical. You need these. These are, as you can see, not ingrained. They will eventually rub off with time. I'd give these about 3 years of moderate play before one of the sides becomes really unreadable. There are engraved dice you can get, but they were mainly a Kickstarter thing. In fact, a lot of this stuff that you see here has a better Kickstarter variant. You can go on a place like eBay and pick up the other ones, which is probably something I'm going to end up doing because we've been playing this game quite heavily, and I want dice that actually last. Other than that, they're printed really nicely. They look really good. It's just because they're printed with ink, they will eventually fade. You might want to get yourself some of the engraved dice before they get too expensive if you find this is something that you want to get into. Um, Last thing we'll look at are these things right here, these Gallons of Glory, otherwise known as GGs, a very, very appropriate name for a very, very appropriate piece, because these are how you win the game. Each team will start off with 6 of these, and there will be one wild one floating around the board that you can also get. And the first team to run out of these, not collect all of, run out of all of these, is declared the loser. And the game works pretty well. These are all the components you get. As you can tell, these are just as well done as the figures, as I said before, except for the boxes. Don't understand why the boxes had to be complete garbage, but I digress. Let's take a look at the other side of the board. This is the other side of the board. It's a bit more streamlined. As you can see, there's also a whole elemental thing going on with it too. You've got, obviously, your water over here. You've got some fire. You've got some earth. And no, actually, wait a second. I think this is supposed to be wind because of the mist everywhere, and then you've got the earth over here. Overall, the elements don't actually do anything for the game, but the board layout is quite different. As you can see here, there are these two kind of demonic symbols, and these are where you kind of buy stuff. These are your shops. The board layout for the boxes is different. As you can see here, this is where you would put comma coins. This is where you would put boxes, bushes, trees, so on and so forth. That's another thing about the game is the board is really simple to set up because of these symbols here. And each of the board layouts is very, very different. As you can see here, this would be kind of like a fight in the middle for all these commas, and then there's not very many around the board to kind of draw players to come here into the middle to see who can control the middle of the board. Whereas a side like this, the commas are more near the edge of the map, and the middle is where you would normally buy things. So it's more like collecting the comma around the board and then coming into the middle to actually do your purchasing. When you're playing the game and moving on the board, characters can move one space at a time. There's no diagonal movement or targeting in this game whatsoever. However, you can technically target sideways if you can count out that many spaces using horizontal or vertical boxes. You just can't count diagonally. Some characters summon special things, like, for example, Queen of the Tofus here. Tofus are like chickens in the world of Dofus, if you've never played. She can summon these little guys, and these guys are known as summon tokens. The game comes with a basic amount of summon tokens based on the characters that you're going to need, and it also comes with enough summon tokens for the characters in the expansions, which I think is absolutely amazing. The tokens themselves don't really do too much damage. That's kind of one of the downsides, is the character itself is less powerful without these summoning tokens, and if you can get rid of the summoning tokens, then really the character itself is very easy to take out. These aren't worth any actual points, so taking them out is just a matter of taking them out so you can get closer to your opponent, but they can be very annoying. We had a lot of problems with the summoning characters when we were doing playtesting, just because people didn't really know what to do about the summoning tokens. They felt trapped, or they felt like the summoning tokens were a little bit too powerful. I don't really see a problem with them. You don't really see them too much in competitive play, but that is something to keep in mind. You might want to keep some of the summoning characters kind of apart. The only real two that you have are her and him. He summons sheep, she summons chickens. I would recommend when you're doing gameplay to keep these two characters on separate teams, just because I found that people complained when they were on the same team and there were just too many summoning tokens for the other team to deal with. Terrain itself isn't just a set piece. As you can see here, a tree is supposed to go here, and if this character, for example, were wanting to shoot this character here with a ranged attack, he couldn't, because there is a tree blocking the path. Bushes don't obstruct the line of sight, but you can't walk over them. Boxes also don't obstruct line of sight. You can kind of walk over them. You can even stand on top of them, and they increase some characters' range, which adds kind of another element to the game. And characters cannot see through other characters. So, for example, let's say this tree wasn't here and this character was in the way. Bada Boom here couldn't actually shoot Queen of the Tofus because this dude is standing in his big dumb way. And line of sight is pretty simple. You would think ranged characters have a very huge advantage in this game, and in a way you'd kind of be right. Trying to deal with a ranged character is very hard for some of the characters and nearly impossible, but because of things like the demonic rewards and other little bonuses you get. It's still possible to win if you are fighting an all-ranged team with a bunch of melee characters, so I find that the game itself is very well balanced. I didn't really go over too many of the rules. This isn't really a tutorial video. I really just kind of wanted to show you the game and see if maybe it's something you should be adding to your collection. Personally, I think everybody who's into this kind of game should definitely think about adding into their collection, even if you don't really get the chance to play and this game falls off. You have these little guys to keep around. I think definitely just collecting these figures is worth having the game. One of the biggest problems with this game when it first came out was the price point. Just this starter set could run you $80. That was the retail price. And I know some of you are ready to immediately turn the video off and not listen to anything else I have to say. The game has come down considerably. I actually found that you can pick this game up for about $45. I think $45 is more than enough for what you're getting. I find that collecting the expansions and stuff can run you pretty expensive. Most of the expansions come with 4 characters, and they run you about $25, and you can kind of decide for yourself whether or not that's too expensive for you. But one other thing that I'd really like to talk about is what you actually get with the expansions. One really cool thing about the expansions is they come with these little like 1-player or 2-player maps that you can play around with. This is just a really cool small touch they didn't have to do, but they did anyway, which I think is really cool. Most of them have some kind of challenge you have to complete, and you just take like 1 or 2 characters that you really like, and you put them here on the starting place, and then you just try to complete the challenge. These aren't really that great. I find that a lot of them are really imbalanced. They're either so ridiculously simple that I can blow through them in like a minute with just about any character, or I find some of them so ridiculously difficult that no matter how powerful the characters I try to get out, I just can't do it. It's just impossible. But most of them can be played with 2 people, so if you just want some kind of like variation from just the regular game, then having a couple of these around is kind of fun. One other really cool thing about the game is they come with these little sheets that have a code on them. You can go ahead and see that code. I've already used all the codes, so even if you use it, can't really do much with it. The codes are really cool because, getting to the best part here, this game can be played online for free. Yep, this is actually an online game that you can go on to Krosmaster.com and play. And if you purchase any of the pieces in real life, like I have, then you can go to the website, put in this code, and you can play with those same pieces online for free. It's just really cool that they would do something like that. You can also choose if there are any characters that you don't have that you would like to play with online. You can win points through matches, and you can actually use those points to buy online digital copies of some of the characters, and that is really cool too. Overall, if you can find this game for $50 or less, I think this is a must, and I really would consider adding it to your collection. If this video happens to get kind of popular, I'll go over some of the expansion sets. Maybe we'll get a closer look at what some of the other characters can actually do. Maybe take a look at some of the other characters' abilities and what they do to the game. But, you know, I guess that all depends on how all of this goes. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave it a like. Those things really do help me out. You should also subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudo news, and is this something that you want to see more of? Then you should definitely leave some of your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you everybody, and have a great day.